This is not a story of war, nor a chronicle of military might. This is a journey into the deepest recesses of human endurance. It is the untold history of two cities, erased from the earth in a blinding flash, only to rise again, forever etched with the scars of their own destruction. For on their very foundations, soaked in ash and memory, was built a new Japan. A Japan that learned, at an unimaginable cost, what it means to truly survive. This is the story of the Japanese city built by death. Before the cataclysm, Japan in the early 1940s was a nation both ancient and modern, a civilization brimming with life, tradition, and a fierce sense of identity. In cities like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, daily life unfolded with a rhythm that had endured for centuries. Families gathered in their wooden homes, the scent of miso soup filling the air. Children, often indistinguishable in their school uniforms, hurried along narrow streets, their laughter echoing between tightly packed houses and shops. Markets teemed with vendors, their cries harmonizing with the clatter of wooden geta on cobblestones. Hiroshima, a vibrant port city nestled on the Ota River Delta, was a hub of industry and commerce, home to nearly 350,000 souls. Its meticulously kept gardens, thriving textile mills, and strategic military headquarters blended into a landscape of quiet diligence. Families here, like the countless others across Japan, valued discipline, community, and the deep-rooted cultural heritage that defined their existence. Nagasaki, a picturesque harbor city built on steep hills, was a cosmopolitan gateway to the world, famed for its shipbuilding and its unique blend of Japanese, Chinese, and European influences, including a significant Christian population. Its winding streets, vibrant temples, and distinct foreign quarters spoke of a history rich in exchange and resilience. These were not just places on a map. They were living, breathing entities, built on generations of dreams and daily routines. But as the 1940s dawned, a shadow began to stretch across these tranquil scenes. The pervasive presence of World War II began to tighten its grip on every aspect of Japanese life. Resources grew scarce, rationing became common, and the ubiquitous sight of military personnel and propaganda posters subtly, yet profoundly, altered the emotional atmosphere. The cheerful camaraderie of peacetime slowly gave way to a pervasive sense of apprehension. Young men marched off to war, their families left behind with a mixture of pride and growing dread. Air raid drills became a regular, chilling routine, training civilians to duck for cover, to prepare for a danger they still couldn't fully comprehend. The war, a distant rumble for many, was steadily approaching, transforming the very fabric of society, instilling a collective, unspoken fear of what the future held. To understand the fate of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we must look beyond their peaceful shores and comprehend the global maelstrom that was World War II. The Pacific War, a brutal and devastating conflict between Imperial Japan and the United States, ignited fiercely on December 7, 1941, with the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. Japan, driven by imperial ambitions and a desperate need for resources, had already expanded aggressively across Asia, embroiling itself in a prolonged and brutal war in China. The war that followed was characterized by unimaginable ferocity and massive casualties on both sides. Island after island became battlegrounds, each conquest paid for in rivers of blood. Iwo Jima, Okinawa, names synonymous with unimaginable human cost. By 1945, Japan faced an Allied blockade. Relentless conventional bombing campaigns were systematically destroying its major cities, and its industrial capacity was crippled. Yet, the Japanese military leadership, rooted in a fierce warrior code, and the belief in honorable death over surrender remained unyielding. The prospect of a full-scale Allied invasion of the Japanese mainland, codenamed Operation Downfall, loomed. Military planners estimated casualties in the millions, a horrific toll for both sides. The United States, weary of war and facing the prospect of an even bloodier invasion, sought a decisive way to compel Japan's unconditional surrender and bring the global conflict to an end. A terrifying new weapon, born from the depths of scientific discovery, was nearing completion. Far across the Pacific, in the sterile silence of hidden laboratories and vast, secluded testing sites, a secret American enterprise of unprecedented scale was underway. The Manhattan Project. Born from the fear that Nazi Germany might develop such a weapon first, an elite cadre of scientists, engineers, and technicians raced against time to harness the power of the atom. From the desert plains of Los Alamos, New Mexico, to the clandestine laboratories of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and Hanford, Washington, thousands of minds toiled in secrecy, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge to create a force capable of unimaginable destruction. The scale of the undertaking was immense, but so too was the burden of its implications. Within the scientific community, profound moral anxiety simmered beneath the surface of their relentless work. Leo Szilard, one of the brilliant minds involved, famously petitioned President Roosevelt against its use, foreseeing a dark future for humanity. J. Robert Oppenheimer, the scientific director, would later recall the Bhagavad Gita's chilling line, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." Even as they meticulously assembled the components of a new apocalypse, some among them grappled with the terrifying ethical questions of what they were creating. They built it to end one war, but in doing so, they ushered in an age where the very existence of humanity would forever be shadowed by the atom's power. The dawn of August 6, 1945, began like any other humid summer morning in Hiroshima. Children walked to school, adults headed to work, farmers tended their fields on the city's outskirts. Above, the sky was a clear, unblemished blue. At 8:15 a.m., this ordinary morning was ripped apart, not by the thunder of conventional bombs they had learned to fear, but by a silent, blinding flash. High above, from the American B-29 bomber Enola Gay, Little Boy, a uranium atomic bomb, was released. The single device detonated 600 meters above the Shima Surgical Clinic, directly over the city center. The immediate result was an incomprehensible burst of energy, an inferno of heat, light, and radiation. Temperatures at the hypocenter soared to an estimated 3,000 to 4,000 degrees Celsius, incinerating everything within a kilometer radius. Thousands of people going about their daily lives were vaporized instantly, leaving behind only shadows on stone. Entire lives disappeared in seconds. But the real horror began after the explosion. A colossal shockwave, traveling at supersonic speeds, flattened nearly 70% of Hiroshima's buildings, tearing through wooden structures and turning them into splinters. Within minutes, raging firestorms, fueled by the debris and the city's highly flammable homes, engulfed what remained. An estimated 70,000 to 80,000 people died instantly, or within hours. Survivors, many horrifically burned and disoriented, wandered through a landscape of smoldering ruins, a city that was no longer a city. The silence that followed the initial chaos was profound, broken only by the crackle of flames and the agonized cries of the dying. Beneath modern Hiroshima lies the shadow of another city that once burned. In the immediate aftermath, the human stories unfolded with a harrowing intimacy that statistics can never fully explain. Amidst the ruins, children, burned and bewildered, searched desperately for parents who would never be found, their small voices echoing in the desolate silence. Many families, reduced to ash, simply ceased to exist, their histories abruptly ended. Survivors, their skin peeling in grotesque sheets, stumbled towards rivers, begging for water, their pleas often unanswered in the chaos. The overwhelming scale of the catastrophe meant that medical aid was virtually non-existent. Hospitals were destroyed, doctors and nurses killed or incapacitated. Beyond the immediate blast and heat, a new, insidious terror began to manifest: radiation sickness. Those who had seemed miraculously spared slowly began to sicken, their bodies betraying them with symptoms no one understood: hair loss, bleeding gums, uncontrollable vomiting, and a slow, agonizing decay. This was a death that crept, silent and invisible. And then there was the black rain. Hours after the explosion, radioactive particles condensed with moisture in the upper atmosphere fell as a sticky, oily downpour. People, desperate for water, unknowingly drank it, compounding their exposure to a silent killer. The psychological confusion and trauma were immense. Survivors could not comprehend what had happened. Was it a new kind of bomb? Had the world ended? The landscape was alien, the horror unprecedented. The weight of what they had witnessed, the loss they had endured, would brand itself onto their souls, an invisible wound that would never truly heal. As the world grappled with the unfolding tragedy of Hiroshima, the nightmare was repeated. Only 3 days later, on August 9th, 1945. The second target was Kokura, but clouds forced the B-29 bomber Boxcar to divert. Its secondary target, Nagasaki. This city, with its unique geography of hills and valleys, and its vibrant Christian community, a legacy of European influence, was, like Hiroshima, home to hundreds of thousands of ordinary civilians. At 11:02 a.m., the Fat Man, a plutonium implosion bomb, more powerful than Little Boy, detonated over Nagasaki's Urakami Valley. Though designed to be more destructive, Nagasaki's undulating terrain channeled some of the blast, creating pockets of devastation alternating with areas of relative, though still severe, damage. Yet, the destruction was staggering. An estimated 35,000 to 70,000 people died instantly, with tens of thousands more succumbing in the following months. Homes, factories, and the historic Urakami Cathedral, once the largest Catholic church in Asia, were obliterated. The emotional devastation was profoundly cruel, a repetition of unimaginable suffering that cemented the terror of this new era. The world had witnessed, twice, the terrifying power of the atom, changing the course of human history forever. With 2 cities annihilated and the Soviet Union declaring war, Japan's leadership faced an impossible choice. On August 15th, 1945, a day that would forever be etched in history, Emperor Hirohito broadcast his nation's surrender over the radio. For many Japanese, it was the first time they had ever heard their emperor's voice, a sacred, almost mythical figure, now speaking of an unendurable ordeal and the acceptance of Allied terms. The announcement shattered the emotional and ideological bedrock of wartime Japan. The imperial ideology, which had demanded absolute loyalty and sacrifice, collapsed, leaving a void for millions. The psychological shock was immense. For a nation taught to fight to the last man, surrender was an alien concept, a profound humiliation. Yet, for many, it also brought a glimmer of relief, an end to the ceaseless, crushing burden of war. World War II, the most destructive conflict in human history, had finally ended. But for the survivors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and indeed for all of Japan, the fighting might have ceased, but the struggle for survival, both physical and psychological, had only just begun. The war ended, but for the survivors, the hibakusha, the horror was far from over. Radiation sickness, an unseen enemy, continued its relentless assault for years, manifesting as cancers, chronic illnesses, and genetic abnormalities. These were not just physical ailments. They were a badge of fear and discrimination. Many hibakusha faced social ostracism, feared as carriers of contagion or bad luck. Their lives burdened by the invisible legacy of the bomb. They struggled to find work, marry, or live without prejudice. The trauma, both individual and collective, ran deep. For decades, many hibakusha remained silent, fearing discrimination, internalizing their pain. This silence, a form of emotional repression, became a defining characteristic of post-war Japanese society, an unspoken agreement to move forward without fully processing the depths of the past. The psychological consequences rippled through generations, a silent inheritance of grief and anxiety. Children of hibakusha lived with the unspoken fear of genetic defects, and the broader society carried the memory of extreme vulnerability. It was a trauma carried across generations, shaping not just personal lives, but the national psyche itself. The cities survived, but the memory never fully faded. From the ashes, a new spirit of resilience emerged. Hiroshima and Nagasaki, once synonymous with annihilation, became symbols of rebirth. Starting almost immediately after 1945, with incredible determination and perseverance, the survivors and those who returned began the monumental task of rebuilding. Roads were cleared, new homes erected, and a collective will to reclaim their cities from oblivion took root. This was not just physical reconstruction. It was a profound act of defiance against despair. Today, modern Hiroshima and Nagasaki stand as vibrant, thriving metropolises. But within their bustling streets and towering skyscrapers, the past is never truly forgotten. Memorial parks, peace museums, and solemn monuments stand as powerful reminders, not just of what happened, but of humanity's capacity for hope and forgiveness. The Peace Memorial Park in Hiroshima, centered around the iconic A-bomb dome, is a profound testament to the city's commitment to peace. Nagasaki's Peace Park, with its towering peace statue, echoes this sentiment. They transformed technologically and economically, becoming beacons of progress. Yet, this remarkable recovery holds a profound emotional contrast. The thriving present stands directly upon a foundation of unspeakable devastation. These cities, built by death, chose life, choosing to turn their unique trauma into a universal message of peace and reconciliation. The legacy of Hiroshima and Nagasaki extends far beyond their physical boundaries, reverberating through the decades in a relentless debate about the bombings themselves. Were they a necessary evil to end the war and save millions of lives, both Allied and Japanese, from a protracted invasion? Or were they an immoral act of civilian destruction, an unnecessary show of force, ushering in an age of unparalleled danger? These are not simple questions, and the answers remain deeply contentious, fraught with historical complexity and profound ethical dilemmas. What is undeniable is that the atomic bombings changed human history forever. The bombs did not just end a war. They initiated the nuclear age, an era defined by the chilling reality that humanity possessed the power to destroy itself. The Cold War, with its terrifying specter of global nuclear annihilation, was a direct consequence, forcing nations to live under a constant existential threat. The very existence of nuclear weapons continues to pose a moral question to every generation. Why does humanity continue creating weapons capable of destroying entire cities, entire civilizations? The ashes of Hiroshima and Nagasaki serve as a permanent, silent warning. So, what does it truly mean for a city to survive nuclear destruction? It means carrying the weight of unimaginable loss, yet finding the resolve to rebuild, brick by agonizing brick. It means transforming trauma into a powerful, living memorial. How do ordinary people rebuild after unimaginable trauma? They do so through courage, community, and the profound, stubborn refusal to let despair have the final word. What memories survive after everything else disappears? The memories of the lost, the echoes of their last moments, the black rain, the desperate search for loved ones. These memories, however painful, become the foundation of understanding, a testament to what was endured. Hiroshima and Nagasaki stand today not just as cities, but as living repositories of human memory and resilience, eternal reminders of humanity's capacity for both ultimate destruction and boundless hope. They are cities built by death, yes, but more profoundly, they are cities that chose to be built by life, by memory, and by an enduring, universal plea for peace. This documentary was crafted using advanced AI technology to push the boundaries of visual storytelling. If you value this blend of innovation and history, please subscribe to support the growth of this channel. It only takes a moment, but it ensures you are the very first to be notified when our next feature premieres.